Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to discuss the concept of isomerism in metal complexes, and our special focus will be on the structural isomerism in the metal complexes. So, let us start with this topic. We know that what is isomerism. So, when two or more different compounds they can have a similar molecular formula but different structures. So that structure could be in the terms of bonding and in terms of so many other things. If the structure is different, but the two compounds they have similar chemical formula, molecular formula, so we call them isomers. And this phenomena is the phenomena of isomerism. So this concept this shows that it is not alone sufficient if you know the molecular formula. And here we are in the inorganic chemistry, we are especially concerned about the coordination compound. So it is not sufficient to just know the chemical formula of a coordination compound, because even when you know the chemical formula, from the same formula you can have two or three different compounds possible. So when you have two or more different compounds from the same chemical formula, you call them isomers, and the phenomena is called isomerism. And when the terms of bonding, when the mode of bonding is different in two isomers, when the arrangement of the atoms and ions and groups inside the compound is different, then also they will show different type of properties. So they can have different physical properties, they can have different chemical properties. For example, if you think about this complex of platinum, PtCl2NH3 twice, if you think about this complex, then it can have two isomers, in which one of the isomer is known as cisplatin. Cisplatin, when it is having the cis configuration, and again when the groups are arranged in the trans form, then you call it a transplatin. So it has been seen that in the case of cisplatin, it is very effective against the cancer. It is used in the therapeutics of cancer. But the transplatin, it is also an isomer of the same compound, but it is not useful for the treatment of cancer. So the mere difference between the two isomers, the cisplatin and the transplatin, what is that difference? Only the arrangement of groups inside the complex, that is different. Otherwise, they both have the same chemical formula. So, by studying the concept of isomerism, we actually understand that the chemical formula of a particular complex is not governing its physical, chemical, and biological properties. Rather, it is the arrangement of the groups and ions and the atoms inside the complex which are actually responsible for the physical and chemical properties of a particular coordination compound. Now, this concept of isomerism, whenever it is existing in the molecule, it can be of two different types. The isomerism can be structural isomerism and stereoisomerism. So, what is structural isomerism? When the different topology, that is the order of the sequence of atomic connection, it is different. So, whenever you are having the two isomers, that can be if those are the different in terms of the bonding, nature of bonding, then you call them structural isomers. But the second type of isomerism is stereoisomerism, and in this case, we have the same topology. Each isomer has the same number, type of bond, and but the only difference is their spatial dispositions. They are different. So, in the 3D space, different arrangement of atom group and ions is possible. So that makes difference between the stereoisomers. But in the structural isomers, whatever difference is there, it is actually having the bonding type of structure. So whenever bonding exists, you get structural isomers, the difference in the bonding. And in the stereoisomer, bonding is same, everything is same, but only difference is the 3D arrangement of the atoms. So this was the broad classification of isomerism in the metal complexes. Now, on going to one more further level, we can again classify these two concepts. So in the previous slide, we saw that isomerism can be the structural isomerism and stereoisomerism. And again, they can be divided into so many categories. So you can see that structural isomerism, it can be conformation isomerism, spin, fluxional, ionization, hydrate, ligand, linkage, coordination, then coordination, position isomerism, and polymerization. These categories are possible inside the structural isomerism, so a huge variety could be present. And in the today's lecture, we will discuss mainly about the structural isomerism in the metal complexes. Then the second category of isomerism is the stereoisomerism, and here we can have geometrical isomerism and optical isomerism. So in the geometrical isomerism, there is a rigid a double bond present, and actually in that condition you get two type of configuration, cis and trans, which is actually determined by the relative configuration, relative position of the two groups inside the complex. And the second is the optical isomerism. So here the isomers, they are showing the optical activity. So in that case, one isomer is rotating the plane of polarized light in one direction, and another isomer is rotating the same light, same plane polarized light, in opposite direction with the same extent. Amount of rotation would be the same for both the isomers, but the direction of rotation is different. So this is the detailed classification of isomerism in metal complexes, and we will continue our discussion with the structural isomerism. In the second part of this lecture, you can see the discussion on stereoisomerism. So let us continue with structural isomerism. The first type of structural isomerism is conformation isomerism. So here what happens, the isomers, they differ only with respect to the stereochemistry point of view, and therefore they are called conformation isomers. So in the conformations, if you remember in the organic chemistry also, what happens in the conformation isomers, there is a rotation around single bond, and due to that rotation, several different arrangements are possible around a particular axis. So that happens in the conformations, and due to that, the different type of structures which are possible due to that rotation, you call them conformers. So it is a wide category of molecule. In the organic chemistry, they are showing the conformations. But in case of the inorganic chemistry, when we are discussing about the coordination compounds, only a few metal ions, they exhibit this type of isomerism, because many a times it is not possible that the rotation can happen around a single bond. So what are the coordination compounds showing conformation isomerism? So the D8 metal ions, particularly we are talking about the D8 metal ion, they exhibit conformation isomerism. And the complex which is under consideration here is nickel. Yes, whenever the D8 configuration comes, instantly nickel metal should come into your mind. So nickel NiCl2 PH2 PCH2 PPH2, the whole twice. So this ligand, if you can imagine, this is a sterically very bulky ligand, and here in this type of complex, it can exist in both trans square planar and tetrahedral stereochemistry, and this is a typical example of conformation isomerism. So let us see the diagram. You can see that this is the bulky ligand we have, and this is the square planar structure of nickel DPPM complex. Then you can see that in the complex we have the nickel atom at the center, and these are the two bulky ligands. They are bidentate type of ligand and surrounding the nickel from all the sides. So this type of complex can exist in the square planar as well as tetrahedral geometry, and therefore they are because they are interconvertible at the room temperature. What happens, they are called as the conformation isomers. Many a times the difference in the stereochemistry results in the difference in magnetic properties of a complex. So, like I told you, the isomers, because of different arrangement of atom and molecule, they also have a different difference in their properties. So that type of difference can also be seen for the conformers, where you can see the different magnetic behavior of such compounds. So it was seen that the square planar complexes of nickel di positive, that is nickel second, they are diamagnetic in nature. They does not exhibit any magnetic behavior. While whenever the tetrahedral type of structure exists, such complexes become paramagnetic. So they start showing activity in the presence of magnetic field. So such type of conformations in this example, they can show different magnetic properties, and that is simply due to different arrangement of atoms. So some of the conformation isomers are also spin isomers. Spin isomer, when a net magnetic moment, when a net spin exists in the complex, you call them spin isomer. So here you can say that this tetrahedral nickel second complex, this is actually what? This is a spin isomer which is showing the paramagnetic behavior. Then the next type of isomerism is the spin isomerism, and here the only difference between the two isomers is the different spin. So at one place you can have a low spin complex, and at one place you can have a high spin complex. So this isomerism is observed basically due to different electron spins in the complexes of same geometry. So complexes are having the same geometry, same chemical formula, and they are showing difference in their spin. So they are known as spin isomers. So in some of the complexes of iron second, iron third, and cobalt second, the metal ions are known to exist in both high spin and low spin state. So what do you mean by a low spin state? So here you can see when your crystal field stabilization energy, when it is greater than the pairing energy. So what happens when the ligand approaches to the metal ion, there is pairing of the electrons. So this actually this behavior is shown only in the presence of ligand. So here what is written here, spin states for Fe third for D5 ion in octahedral ligand field. So whenever the ligand approaches to the metal, then only you will consider such type of electronic configuration. It is not a property of an independent free metal ion. So whenever the ligand approaches and the crystal field stabilization energy CFSE is greater than the pairing energy, then what happens? Because the pairing is not possible, now electrons will prefer to enter again in the lower energy state and start pairing. So they won't go up to the higher energy levels, and they will remain paired in the lower energy orbitals. So what happens when you count on the spin? This type of configuration is a low spin complex because only one unpaired electron is there, right? All the other electrons they have paired. So only one electron is left unpaired, and you call it a low spin configuration. But in case of the high spin configuration, you can see the crystal field stabilization energy is very less than the pairing energy. So what happens? As you can see, the difference is small between the T2G and EG orbitals, and therefore the electrons they will fill like this in the orbital. So all the orbitals, all the T2G and EG orbitals, they are containing one electrons, all unpaired. So as a total, we have 5 unpaired electrons here, right? So Fe third ion in an octahedral ligand field, it can have either the high spin configuration. So this is the high spin configuration, T2G5 Eg0, and it can have a low spin complex, that is the T2G3 and Eg2. This type of configuration is possible in the case of high spin and low spin type of metal electronic configuration. So these two forms are what? They are the spin isomers. They are the same metal atom is present, but due to the difference in the ligand field strength, the same metal ion can exist in the low spin as well as high spin configuration. So spin isomerism is known to be present in a complex like this. The example is given here, and its structure is mentioned here. This is S2CnMe2, S2CnMe2, S2. So we have two sulfur atoms, Cn and Me2. So this is the very bulky type of a complex ligand. And here in the case of, we are talking about Fe third, that is ferric ion. So the spin isomers, they coexist in the sample, but their lifetimes are very short. Only 10 raised to power minus 7 second. So the spin isomers, yes, they exist, but the lifetime is very short, and hence they are difficult to distinguish. They actually readily changes their configuration, so you cannot detect their presence. The spin isomerism behavior in the solution and the solid state. In both these two cases, it is different. You can see a different spin behavior in solution of the coordination compound and in the solid state of the coordination compound. So these two are the two different categories. Then third type of isomerism that is seen in the coordination compound, it is fluxional isomerism. And in this type of behavior, the molecules they are actually undergoing rapid intramolecular rearrangements. So you call it what? Fluxionality. So intermolecular rearrangement, they are very quickly taking place inside the molecule, inside the coordination compound, and therefore the structure is changing rapidly. So different type of structures are possible for a particular type of compound, and all these structures you call them fluxional isomers. So such phenomena is actually exhibited by ketones and phenols. And we call it what? We call it as tautomerism in the organic chemistry. So you actually write down the keto-enol tautomerism, and you actually denote them by two different structures, and the interconversion is really dynamic at room temperature. So similar to that, the phenomena of tautomerism, this fluxional behavior is shown by coordination compounds. So, a very good example is a polynuclear metal carbonyl like octacarbonyl dicobalt. It has been seen that this type of carbonyl compound of the cobalt, it can exist in two different structures. Two different possible structures are possible for this type of carbonyl, and in one structure you can have the bridging carbonyl, and in the other structure you don't have any bridging carbonyl. So these two structures are possible, and they are interconverting into each other at the same room temperature. So in one structure you have two bridging carbonyl and three terminal on each of the cobalt, and in another structure, in the another isomer of this carbonyl compound, you have four carbonyl on each of the cobalt atom as a terminal ligand. So the molecule of this type of coordination compound, that is it is a manganese complex in which you have three carbonyl and one cyclopentadienite. It is shown in the figure. Let us see the figure. And it is capable of showing 15 fluxional isomers. This is the structure of this complex. We have a manganese at the center, and then three carbonyls as a terminal ligand are attached to the manganese, and on one side we have a cyclopentadiene as another ligand. So this type of complex, it can exist in 15 different fluxional forms. So like you can see that the unit of this cyclopentadiene and metal, it has five-fold rotation exists due to the cyclopentadienyl ring, and the unit, that is MCO3, it possesses a threefold rotation exists, because you can rotate it by 120 degree each time you get a similar configuration. So when you combine these two sets of exes, there are all 15 rotational isomers possible in this molecule. So that is how this figure of 15 came here. A 15-fold rotational exes. It affords an angle of 24 degree between the two equipotential arrangement. So each of the fluxional isomers, it has a difference of a 24 degree angle, and in addition to this, a negligible energy change is involved. So because the energy change is negligible, it can happen at the room temperature as well. So the individual nomenclatures of all these structural isomers is avoided, and what we do, we collectively call them as the fluxional molecules. Then we have ionization isomerism. So what is this? Isomers that give different ions in the solution. They are called the ionization isomers. So if you see their if you see their chemical formula, it can appear same. It can appear to have similar type of ions, but when you put them in the solution, then you are getting different type of ions. Now we know that for the coordination compound, what ions we will be getting. So only the ions, the groups which are outside the coordination sphere, they are able to isolate themselves as ions. Otherwise, if a group is inside the coordination sphere, like The square bracket is showing here the coordination sphere. So if any ion is present inside this bracket, so this ion cannot have an independent existence, and in this case only what you will get, the ion that is outside the coordination sphere, that you will get as the ion in the solution. So example is this: you have a complex of cobalt. Here you have five ammonia molecules inside the coordination sphere. But in the first isomer you have bromine inside the coordination sphere and sulfate outside. And in the second isomer you have sulfate inside and bromine outside. So if you write the empirical formula of this complex, you can write that, you can see that everything is similar in the two complexes. Like in this formula, you can distinguish by this square bracket. Otherwise, if you can write down the empirical formula, both of them have the same formula. But the difference is what? When you put this first complex in the solution, what you will get? You will get a complex ion like this and a sulfate anion. And for the second isomer, if you put it into the solution, you will get this complex ion and a bromide ion. So these two isomers you can easily identify by performing the test for sulfate and bromide. The first isomer, it will give test for sulfate, and the second isomer, it will give test for bromide ions in their aqueous solution. So what are the two different tests that we can perform? In the first isomer, when you have the sulfate ion outside the coordination sphere, it will give a white precipitate of barium sulfate with aqueous solution of barium chloride, and it does not give the test for bromide ion because the bromide is inside the coordination sphere and it has lost its identity because it is taking part in the complex formation. So the individual ions and groups, they actually lose their identity whenever they are involved in the coordination bond formation. Only the sulfate is outside. So you can see that when the complex is put inside the solution, this will be the mode of the ionization. You will get this aqueous complex ion and sulfate ion, and when you add barium chloride to it, this barium chloride will react with the sulfate ion only, and you will get a white precipitate of barium sulfate. While for the second isomer, if you can see, it will give a pale yellow precipitate of silver bromide with an aqueous solution of silver nitrate. So when you put this type of complex in the solution, you will get again two ions. Two ions are possible, and it does not give the test for sulfate ion. When you add barium chloride to this solution, no test will be given because now that sulfate is inside the coordination sphere. It is taking part in the coordinate bond formation. It is taking part in the complexation, so now it has lost its identity, and the only independent ion that you will be getting is a complex ion like this and the bromide ion. So now when you add the silver nitrate solution to this complex, you will get a yellow precipitate of silver bromide, and you can identify that now the bromine is outside the coordination sphere. So like these chemical tests, you can identify that two different ions are present in the solution, and therefore you call it ionic isomerism. Now, few other examples of such isomerism is like the complexes given here. We have a few pairs of complexes. So, in each of them, let us see in the first type of in the first example given here. When you will put these complexes in the solution, the first isomer will give test for the nitrate, and the second will give test for the bromide ion. Then in the second case, you can see the bromide ion is produced in the solution, and on the other hand, this isomer will give chloride ion in the solution. Similarly, in the third pair of example, you can see SCN ion will be generated in the solution, and here only the chloride ion will be generated. So all these pair of isomers, they will give different taste, and therefore even when they have the same empirical formula, you can see that their structure is different in terms of their ions, and therefore we call it what? Ionic isomerism. The structural formula of the ionization isomers, it can be deduced by the measurement of molar conductance. And now let us see how the conductivity experiments can be performed for them. We know that the conductivity is what? It is the property of an ion. A solution actually conducts electricity whenever it has ions, and the conductivity is proportional to the concentration of the ions. So greater the concentration of ion, greater will be the conductivity. This is the basic concept. Now let us see the examples here. So if a complex, it is having the molecular formula, that is CrCl4H2O, and it exhibits the molar conductance corresponding to two ions. Then the dissociation can only be written as CrH2O4Cl2, then one chloride is outside, and now you can see we have two ions in the solution. So if we are getting the molar conductance, that you can refer to only the presence of two ions, then you are writing the structure like this. So by this conducting the this molar conductivity experiment, you can actually write down the structure of the complex from its molecular formula. Then the above formula can be verified by measuring the amount of the precipitation of AgCl using the AgNO3. So now to ensure the findings that you are getting from the conductivity experiment, now you will also perform another experiment to get the supporting data. And now if you add AgNO3 to the solution, the chloride ion which are present in the solution, they will be precipitated as the AgCl, white precipitate of AgCl. And when you measure the AgCl, by maybe you can use the gravimetric technique. So in that case, when you are measuring the AgCl concentration, you can actually find out what is the actual structure of this type of complex. Then the next isomerism we have is the hydrate isomerism. And here what happens, the isomers in which the coordinated ligands are replaced by water molecules. So the only difference is water molecules have come inside the coordination sphere. So it is very much similar to the ionic isomer, that one ion is outside and then it is inside. Here we are, for the same thing, we are using the water molecule. So in the hydrate isomer, the coordinated ligands, they are replaced by water molecule. Now let us see some very interesting examples of this category. The green crystals of chromium third chloride, they are formed in the hot aqueous solution upon reduction of the chromium 4 oxide with the hydrochloric acid. So when these crystals are dissolved in water, the chloride ligand in the complex are slowly replaced by water to give blue, green and finally violet colored complexes. So initially you get the chromium third chloride, which was in the hot aqueous solution. It was what? It is the green crystals. Then when you slowly cool it, during the process of cooling, what happens? Slowly the water molecules, they are coming inside the coordination sphere, replacing the chloride ion, and it actually it is reflected in the change in the color of the crystal that are formed. Initially they were of the green color, but slowly when as the water molecules start replacing the chloride ions, the color changes from green to blue green, and then finally the product that you get, it is having the violet color. So let us see another experiment regarding the same concept. 1 gram quantity of these three dark green, blue green and violet colored isomers of a complex with molecular formula CrCl3,6H2. This is the formula, and you know that it is existing in the three isomers. One is the dark green, one is blue green and another is violet. So you have the molecular formula and you have this information from the experiment that it is existing in the three forms. Now you take the 1 gram quantity of this compound. When you treat it with some dehydrating agent is which is able to remove the water molecule. So when you treat it with some dehydrating agent, it attained a constant weight of 0.865 gram, 0.932 gram and 1 gram respectively. So another experiment was performed to ensure the presence of isomers. Now using this information, it is possible to identify the structural formula of the isomers. So how the different structural isomers can be find out? First of all, let us see the molecular weight. So for CrCl3,6H2O, molecular weight will be, you will calculate it like this, and then it will come around 266.5 gram. Now if you take the 1 gram of the dark green isomer, so it loses how much of the weight? 0.865. So you deduct it from the value of 1 gram, right? You will deduct it from the 1 gram value, and now you get what? 0.135 gram of water. So when you treat the dark green isomer with a dehydrating agent, this is the loss of weight. So this loss of weight you can attribute to the loss of the water molecule. Now 266.5 gram of this dark green isomer, it actually loses this much amount, 36 gram of the water molecule, which correspond to 2 water molecule. And you know that only the water molecule which are outside the coordination sphere, they will be lost by the dehydrating agent. Otherwise, if the water molecule is inside the coordination sphere, no dehydrating agent can remove them. So from this information, we can deduce that the dark green isomer, it has two water molecule outside the coordination sphere of the complex. So how you will write the formula? You will write the formula like CCl3 4H2O, and then you will put down the brackets of the coordination sphere, and on the outside you will write 2H2, right? So similarly, now let us see another isomer. So the second type of isomer which was seen, it was a blue-green isomer. So now again you will take the 1 gram quantity of that isomer, and when you apply the dehydrating agent, now the loss in the weight would be 0.068 gram of water molecule. Now see, from the 266.5 gram of dark green isomer, how much weight should be lost? So it is 18.12 gram, and it is nearly equal to the 1 water molecule. So from this information now, we can understand that in the blue-green isomer, only one water molecule is outside the coordination sphere of the complex. Now, since the violet isomer, it does not lose any weight, because we saw that when we apply the dehydrating agent to it, there is no change in the weight. It was initially 1 gram, and after applying the dehydrating agent also it was 1 gram. So because there is no change in the weight, you can conclude that yes, there is no water molecule in the outer shell of the isomer. So it has been observed that 1 gram quantity of these three isomers of CrCl3 6H2O, we have three isomers: dark green, blue green, and violet colored isomers. When we are treating them with the excess of the silver nitrate, now let us see how many chlorides are present outside the coordination sphere. So how you will judge that? You have to perform the test for chloride ion. So for that you have to add silver nitrate, right? So you take all the isomers, dark green, blue green, violet, and you treat them with the silver nitrate. Now what happens if the chloride is outside the coordination sphere? It will react with the silver nitrate, and you will get a white precipitate of silver chloride. So let us see, when you take the 1 gram quantity of the three isomers, how much AgCl is formed. So it was 0.538 gram, then 1.076 gram, and then 1.614 gram respectively. Now let us again perform the calculation and find out how many chlorides are inside or outside the coordination sphere in all the three isomers. So now you can again write down the molecular weight of the compound. It is 266.5 gram. Then molecular weight of the AgCl is 143.5 gram. Now you know that 1 gram of the dark green isomer, it gives 0.538 gram of AgCl. So 266.5 gram of the dark green isomer, how much AgCl it will generate? It will generate 143.37 gram of the AgCl, and it corresponds to only one chloride ion. Only one chloride ion. So now thus the dark green isomer has only one chloride ion outside the coordination sphere of the complex. Then again you perform the same calculation for other isomers. So 1 gram of the blue green isomer, when you perform the test, when you add silver nitrate to the solution, you will get 1.076 gram of AgCl. So from the 1 gram you are getting this much amount of the AgCl. So from the 266.5 gram of the dark green isomer, how much amount of the AgCl you will get? 86.7. So this corresponds to two chloride ions, and therefore the blue-green isomer has two chloride ion outside the coordination sphere of the complex. Lastly, for the third and the last isomer, that is having the violet color, we see that the 1 gram of the violet isomer, it is giving 1.614 gram of AgCl. Therefore, to 66.5 gram of the dark green isomer, it will lose 430.13 gram of the AgCl, and this corresponds to 3 chloride ions. So now you know that the violet isomer, it has 3 chloride ion outside the coordination sphere, and no water molecule is outside, because when you applied the dehydrating agent, there was no change in the weight of this isomer. So So now from all these experimental observations, now we can tabulate these conclusions here. So we have a violet complex which is having the formula CrH2O6Cl3. So it gives a 3 chloride ion in the aqueous solution and no moisture loss upon the dehydration. Then we have a blue green isomer, so it is CrH2O5Cl, and we have two chloride outside and one water molecule. So it gives two chloride ion in the aqueous solution and loss of moisture corresponding to the two water molecule upon dehydration. Lastly, we have dark green isomer and here CrH2O4Cl2 Cl2H2O. So you have one chloride ion in the aqueous solution and the loss of the moisture corresponding to three water molecules upon the dehydration. So these are the experimental conclusions. And if you remember that first you get a dark green complex, then we get a blue green complex, and lastly we get a violet complex. So when you allow the complex to remain in contact with the solution, remain in aqueous solution for some time, this water molecule which was outside, now it start entering inside the coordination sphere, replacing the chloride ligand, and finally at the end product that you get after the completion of reaction is your violet colored isomer. So at the end, what happens? All the chloride ions they are replaced by the water molecule inside the coordination sphere, and now all the chlorides are outside and all the water is inside. Then we also have a ligand isomerism in the complexes, and these type of isomers they are called ligand isomers. So the example that is given here, 1,2 diaminopropane and 1,3 diaminopropane. They form complexes showing the ligand isomerism. So this is the complex. We have a cerium metal at the center, and in one of the complex you have 1,3 diaminopropane as a ligand, and in this you have 1,2 diaminopropane complex. So 1 and 3, 1,3 diaminopropane, and here only the 1,2 diaminopropane is present as a ligand. So merely due to the atom of the ligand which is involved in the bonding with metal, that has changed, and that makes these two complexes different. Then next we have linkage isomerism, and here the ligands that are capable of binding the metal ion using either of the more than one coordinating atoms, they are called ambidentate ligands. So like the example is the nitro ligand, and here you have this is ambidentate ligand, and it can coordinate either through the nitrogen or oxygen atom. So both the atoms they can form a bond with the metal. Similarly, SCN and S2O3 they are also ambidentate ligands. So they are also able to like this isothiocyanate. This is able to form this thiocyanate, and when the NCS is there, when the bonding is through the sulfur, you called it thiocyanate, and when the bonding is through the nitrogen atom, you call it isothiocyanate. So S2O3 is another example of ambidentate ligand. So in the two isomers of this type, in the two different linkage isomers, the only change is when you have two different atoms attached to the different isomers. So isomers which are formed when ambidentate ligands use different coordinating atoms for binding the metal ion, they are known as linkage isomers. So example is you have a CONO2 NH3 5Cl. So this is one of the isomer, and the second you can see CONO. So in place of NO2 now the oxygen is actually entered. Yeah, in this case you can see the nitrogen, and in this case you have see the oxygen. So the only difference is what atom of the ligand has made bond with the metal, and this is only shown by those ligands which have two such atoms which can enter into the bond with metal. So these type of ligands are called ambidentate ligands. Then we have coordination isomerism in the complexes, and here the isomers they have both cationic and anionic part in the complex with different distribution of ligand or metal ion. And if you can write down the empirical formula, the both isomers they will have the same empirical formula. But if you look at the structures, if you look at the cationic and the anionic part of such complexes, both are first of all both are the complex cation and complex anion. and they have a different distribution of ligand inside them. Like two pairs of such isomers are given here. So you have a in the first example, let us see, you have chromium, hexaecochromium, NH36, all ammonia is present inside the cationic complex part, and all the thiocyanate is present in the anionic part. But in the second type of isomer, you have 4 ammonia and 2 thiocyanate in the cationic part, and 2 ammonia and 4 thiocyanate in the anionic part. So this would be the difference here, and we call them the coordination isomers. Then in the second case, you see that in the cationic complex, and you have all the ammonia inside and all the C and cyanide inside, and then in the isomer of this type, you have all the ammonia present in the coordination sphere in the positive cation, and all the cyanide inside the negative cation. So the only difference is the change in the type of the ligand present in cationic and anionic complex. Then we have the coordination position isomerism, and here the isomers of the bridged polynuclear complexes, they can show different distribution of non-bridging ligands with respect to the metal ion, and therefore we call them as coordination position isomers. So like in this case, you can see this is a symmetrical type of coordination compound. You have two bridging ligands between the two metal atoms, and therefore you call it a polynuclear complex because you have two metal atoms here, and both the metal atoms, they have 4 ligands are attached to them, 4 terminal ligands. But now in the second unsymmetrical variety, you can see that there is a simple change in the distribution of the ligand, and now you get what? You get 2 different isomers due to the position of the coordinated ligand. So the only difference is change in the position of non-bridging ligand, right? If you can carefully observe the diagram, only difference is the change in the position of non-bridging ligand. So if you see, this terminal ligand was earlier here, but now it is not at this place. So its position has changed because the 4 terminal ligands are there in the tetrahedral orientation, and every time you get a different orientation of them. So here one terminal ligand is present, but at this atom you don't have the same group at the same place. So this is a symmetrical type of such a coordination isomer in which both the metal atoms, they are having a similar type of configuration. But in the unsymmetrical, you have one type of configuration on one metal atom, and on the other metal atom you have a different configuration. Lastly, we have in the structural isomerism, we have polymerization isomers, in which the polymerization is actually representing a variable value of x in the complex of type M, L, and X. So you have a complex, and this x value actually varies. So this is not actually an isomerism, but it is included here because it represents an additional way in which an empirical formula may give incomplete information about the nature of complex. So all the members of the series CONH3 thrice and NO2 thrice X, they are the polymerization isomers. So here the value of X can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can see that the 2 is written twice. So why it is written 2 times? Because here you can see that you are getting a different ligand isomers for the similar value of X. Like for the value of X as a 2, you have 2 different isomers, 2 different ligand distribution between the cationic and anionic part, and therefore you call it ligand isomers. So this is possible in case of the X value 3 also, and for the 4 also you have 2 different orientation possible, a different distribution of the ligand is seen, and these type of, if you look at them together, they are just the case of the polymers. Like we can see that in the case of the polymers, only difference could be the chain of the monomers which is attached to a particular which are attached together. So here the number of monomer unit you can represent it by the X value, and therefore you call it polymerization isomerization. So these are the references for today's lecture, and that is all from my side. Please also go for the second part of this lecture, which includes the stereoisomerism in metal complexes. Thank you so much.